Up next, providing that you've already taken a picture on some sort of solid background, like I said, it could be a wall, it could just be a tan colored wall, yellow, blue, doesn't really matter, as long as it's nice and well lit. I would definitely say that you should stand at least 3 feet in front of the wall. I wouldn't stand against the wall because then you're going to have a shadow and it's going to, could potentially cause some issues when you're trying to trace it out. But I just use a regular old green screen here, and this is my image that's going to go on the very front of my album, because in the assignment, your picture should be in the center of the front of the album cover, because it's all about you. It's about your soundtrack. So you're the focus, you're the center of attention. So I have my picture here on a green screen. Now I have a variety of different tools to be able to take this background out. And let me just say, use what works for you. You may actually use a tool that I may not cover here, and if you're comfortable using it, then go right ahead. The nice thing about Photoshop is nobody uses it the same way, and depending on the type of project, there are some specific methods that you should follow. But for this assignment, it's not a big deal on what different tools that you want to use. So I'm over here, and the first thing you can do is what they call the magic wand tool. Now you'll notice there's actually something here, and what you can do also is you can hover over these tools and it will literally tell you what they do. So if you kind of just stand there and wait a sec and point at it, it gives you an example. Now you'll see a teeny tiny arrow right there. If you click and hold, you'll see there's a whole bunch of other tools here too. And if you click on that particular tool and hover back over, it'll tell you what it is. So let's go to the magic wand tool. Now the great thing about the magic wand tool is it has what's called a tolerance. The higher the tolerance, the more it's going to grab. So let's say I have a low tolerance. I set it to 10, and I click right here. As you can see, it did not grab everything that I wanted. Now, there's a couple things you could do. You could hold the Shift key, and you see that little plus that shows up? You can just keep holding Shift and click and start getting as much as you can. Now, let's say you click there. If you hold the Option key, see how the minus shows up? So you can hit that minus and it will get rid of the accidental thing you just selected. Now, you could sit here and do this, but it's going to take some time. So let's deselect it. I use key commands. I go Command D, or you could go Select and do deselect and start over. Now, I could turn this tolerance up, let's say 30. And now watch what happens when I click over here. See how much more it grabbed? Now, you don't want to go too high. Now, let's just go a little extreme and say 70, okay? And I click. It actually did a really good job. But in some cases, if you have it turned up too high, see what it does? It'll grab more than what you want. So you want to deselect and turn that tolerance down. Let's say 50. Okay. Now you can see there's a little bit left, but I'm going to hold that Shift key. I'm going to select and click. Now here's the thing. It didn't select me. It selected that green background. So what you want to do is you want to go Select, and you want to go Inverse and see what it did. Now it selected me. So I can do one of two things. I could actually go and make a new layer of myself. Okay, move this over a little bit, and you'll see when my Layers tab opens up. But I can just go click back on my document, hit Layer, and I can scroll down and make a new layer. Now, like I said, I use key commands, so I just hit Command and the letter J. Now the Command key looks to me like a 4-leaf clover. It's on either side of your keyboard, or it says Command, or it has a little apple if it's an actual Apple product. So I'm going to hit Command J, and you'll see what it does is it actually creates a new layer of me. So there I am right there. Okay, so that's a great, easy way to take care of that. Now I can go Command and copy, okay, and go to my album front and then do Command Paste. Okay, now obviously I'm pretty huge right there, and you can actually see some artifacts here from the leftover green. You can still go and hit your magic wand tool to get rid of some of that green there, okay, and delete it out. What you can also do too is, if you notice in my hair, it's a little jagged. Now you can go in and once again use another variety of tools. You can right click and use your brush tool, and you can go, actually I want to use the erase tool to be able to get rid of that. and then soften this up a bit. Here's my eraser tool. Sometimes I move the tools around. So I can actually go in and soften it, okay, and make it look nice. I'm just doing it real quick, so it's not really perfect looking. And you can also go in and correct and get rid of that green by using, it's called the sponge tool. And if you look up top, it says desaturate. Make a smaller brush, and then you can just see what happens. You can desaturate that green out of there, okay, and make it look more realistic. See what I did? Okay. So for the most part, that looks pretty good. Now, obviously, that picture is way too big, so I'm going to shrink this down and fit myself in the center. And that's where this, show transform tools comes in handy. See, it has all these right here, so I can resize, okay? And then I can actually hold the command key and click, and you see how you can do these distortions and do some pretty cool things by holding these different keys down, okay? So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. And like I said, if you don't like it all of a sudden, you hit Command Z and it takes you back to where you were, okay? So let's jump back again and we'll open up our history, which I love to have open all the time, is over. Here's my history, okay? And then don't forget, here's my layer. So here's the cool part. So there's me, and then there's my background. And I'm actually sitting here right now, and I'm going to end up doing another way of how to use different tools. So let's jump and pretend we didn't do this layer right here. I always like to leave the original layer alone. So I always like to make a copy of whatever it is that I'm working on. So now I'm going to sit over here and I'm going to try a couple other different tools. Okay. So you'll notice there's magic, there's quick selection tool. So if you go to the quick selection, you can sit here and go around and you can see how it grabs me. You can also, like I said, if you just keep going, but if you notice, it grabbed a little bit of that green and we don't want that green. So you can hold that option key again. Okay, I like to zoom in on my work to see what's going on, not just my face, but I want to add my glasses in, so I'm going to sit here and trace it out. Now, as you notice, it takes a little bit of a long time to do it, but if it's a picture of, say, 3 or 4 people standing outside and you don't have a nice background, you're going to want to go in and use a specialized tool, such as this, to outline what you want, okay? So it takes a little messing around, but kind of gives you a really good idea. That's one of the tools you can use. You can also use there's a variety of different, the lasso, the polygon, the magnetic lasso. Here's another one, and where if I click start here, and you see as I drag across, I can go around and it will create this path for me, okay? And it does a pretty decent job once again, but as you can see, it takes a long time to go around and finish this up. And you have to finish where you started to make that selection. And as you can see, there's my selection. I can hit Command J, and then once again, I created another layer, okay? You could even go in, for example, also, and just use the eraser tool. Make sure you're on that proper layer where you go in and you can just start erasing your background. Now, I really don't recommend that. It's going to take you a long time. But as I said, if you're trying to take a little bit of green out of here or out of there, it might be a good idea to use that. But there's a variety of different tools. There's also, and what's considered the industry standard is the pen tool, but it is a really complicated tool to use. We actually do a whole lesson on that, so we'll cover that at another time. But I would recommend you stay within these 2 areas of tools, and you can even use your shapes. So let's just say I want to adjust my head, okay, and I have that square. Well, now you can use a combination of tools. So let's say I want to go to Magic Wand and get rid of this green. I can hold Option and click and see what it did. It took just my head and what's left of right here. So you can use a variety of different tools. Say I want just those 3 things there. I can hold Option and get rid of things. I can hold Shift and add things, and then create, like this funky shape, something like that. So there's a lot of variety, but I would definitely tell you if you hover over, you can always look at the tool and see Learn How. So if you do Learn How, select with Lasso tool in the Photoshop, making selections, and it will literally show you how to use that tool. So it's all about taking that little bit of time and investigating which tool is going to work best for you. And that's really what it's all about. So maybe, in my case, the Magic Wand tool worked out really well. So you can go back, hover over that Magic Wand tool and hit Learn How and make a quick selection in Photoshop. So it will go and do this entire tutorial on how to do it. So if I'm not around, it's late at night, this will show you how to do it. So that's pretty much it for using the selection tools. Just a quick overview, but find what works for you and start dragging those images of yourself over. But that's the first image I would drag over. Up next, we're going to start showing you how to drag everything over and start cropping and taking care of that stuff.